back, relax, and let's have a chapter chat. I'm your host, Jessica Foster, and so excited to have best-selling author Kristy Woodson Harvey back with us here on the Chapter Chat podcast. Hi, Kristy.
Hi. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for having me back again. I'm so happy to see you.
It's great to see you again, and I'm ecstatic about your newest novel, Summer State of Mind. It is getting so much buzz right now.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you. I am just so over the moon about this one. I'm so happy for it to be, out in the world. And it's been a book I've been thinking about for a long time. So I'm very excited for it to be here.
And for those who have not been as lucky as I have to read it yet, let's give them a brief synopsis.
Yeah. So Summer State of Mind is about a burnout NICU nurse who heads to the sleepy town of Cape Carolina, expecting sort of a simpler life. And the first day in her new job, the baseball coach of the school, who is a former injured baseball star himself, comes walking in the emergency room, or running rather, with an abandoned infant that he has found, which of course sort of sets this whole book into motion. So this is really a story about, found family and just the surprises in our lives that lead us where we're supposed to be.
And I love that theme of found family because we can be family in so many beautiful ways.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah, I don't know why I'm so fascinated by that, but I think it's something that I come back to again and again. And I think sometimes life just doesn't always go exactly according to our, perfect plan that we had envisioned for ourselves. And so I love the idea that it doesn't have to look a certain way for it to be really, really great.
And you said that this is something that you had on your mind for a long time. Let's explore that a little bit.
Yes. So this is actually sort of funny because my last two books, I have gotten the idea from something that I saw in the media, which has never happened to me before. So my book last year, Beach House Rules, I got the idea from a clip I saw on Good Morning America. And then for this book, I actually read an article a few years ago about a NICU nurse who just fell madly in love with a baby that had been abandoned and ended up adopting the baby. And so I mentioned this to a friend of mine who also happens to be a NICU nurse. And she said, "Oh my goodness, this has just recently happened, with one of my friends." And I thought, oh my gosh, like that is so cool. That's definitely, a thing. But I just kind of filed it away in the back of my mind. And I'm always, a couple years ahead on, what I'm working on versus what is coming out. And I had some, other things I was working on then, and it just wasn't quite the time. And so when I sat down to think, okay, what am I going to write next? This was an interesting progression because I still had this story filed away. I knew it was something that I wanted to explore. And so when I started kind of just thinking about this nurse, Daisy, who I knew was going to be the protagonist of this book, and, where she was going to live and who was going to be in her path and how her story was going to unravel, I just kept seeing her love interest as Mason from my book, Under the Southern Sky. And he was a very secondary character in that novel. He did not have a lot of page time in that book. And I just thought he was an interesting character that I really wanted to explore. And he kind of needed a happy ending of his own. So I thought, well, he would be a great main character for this book for a lot of reasons. And then once I put Mason in, Aunt Tilly, who is actually also in Under the Southern Sky, again, a very secondary character, is one of the characters that I have gotten more emails from readers about than any character I have ever written. And people they wanted to know more about her. They wanted to know more about her backstory and her life and how it had unraveled. And Aunt Tilly and Daisy have some really interesting parallels in their lives that I started to realize. And I thought, okay, we're going to go back to Cape Carolina and we're going to have Daisy's story unravel in this little seaside town that I love so much with these characters that I'm so excited to revisit. I've never done that before. I've never taken secondary characters from a book and then put them in a new novel. So that was something different for me and just a really fun experience of revisiting a place that I had really loved.
Well, I think it's important to point out how much you like to connect with your readers because you
Yes.
took that feedback from them and incorporated
Yes.
it into your work. And I think that's what makes you such an accessible author.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, that is so important to me, and it has been since the beginning. I mean, we can all sit back and think, okay, well, we're writing this work, but we're writing it for the readers. And if the readers aren't here and the readers aren't buying our books, we don't have a job anymore. I mean, the reader's our client. So
Right.
I always, of course, I go into a story with an idea of something that I want to do and something that I want to explore. But I think the longer I do this and the more I hear from my readers and the more, they reach out to me, the more I get a feel for what they really want right now and what is really resonating with them. And, I want to bring them into the process and I want them to feel like they had a great experience when they read this book and that they got to escape for a few hours and, maybe think about something that they hadn't thought of or revisit a memory or learn something new about themselves.
I also think that it's so interesting how you take these ideas from other news stories and that idea of found family. I think that's
Yeah.
so special to me because my husband and I, we adopted our daughter. And
I didn't
so,
know that.
yes, we adopted her as an infant.
Oh, I love hearing that so much. And it's something that I've written about before. Actually, my first novel, Dear Carolina, is written from a birth mother and an adoptive mother to their daughter about the ways their lives change in the year after her birth. And I'm just so fascinated by, like you said, the ways that we create families and what a huge gift it is on all sides when people, make these decisions to create a family that looks the way that works for them.
Exactly. And just showing that love can come in so many different forms.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I have not read that book, Kristy. I've got to read it now.
I know. Well, I know. But after I say that, I'm like, oh my gosh, because you're always, it's probably like if you went back and looked at yourself on camera the very first day and you thought, oh, I hope I'm better than that now. But I still love that book. I mean, it gave me the start to my career. I'm very proud of it, of course. But you do always think, oh my goodness, my first one. Do I want people to read that?
Oh, I know. I look back at my first reports and I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah. I've grown a lot since then.
That's good. We always want to be growing, so it's a good thing.
Yes. You're often described as an author with the ultimate beach reads. How do you feel being classified into that?
Well, it's an interesting conversation that we have been having this year. It's funny that you say that. I love it. I mean, I love the idea of writing stories that people can escape into and lose themselves into. But we've laughed a little bit this year because a couple of readers have been like, you know, you always say these are beach reads, but like thematically, there's a lot going on and there's a lot of action, and so it's always funny just to hear what readers really think about what makes a beach read. And to me, it's really just any story that I can lose myself in. I mean, I love to read like a thriller on the beach because I don't want to read that before bed because then I have nightmares and I can't sleep. So, but I think the idea around this is basically that these are stories that are going to have a happy ending or at least a satisfying one. There's stories where someone's going to fall in love and where hopefully the characters are going to develop. And, ideally you can lose yourself in another world. And they do tend to have these really coastal beachy settings. So even if you are, in your living room and you can't get to the beach, you can feel like you are.
See, for me, living in Florida, every read is a beach read for me.
I do think readers are looking for an escape. I've really felt that the last few years. And I think
Yes.
everyone is so busy and there's so much going on in everyone's lives. And to be able to just have that time for yourself, whether it's like at the end of the day I'm sure you've seen all these studies coming out about how reading lowers your stress levels and all of these things. And I'm like, I actually, it really hit home for me during the pandemic. I had this kind of moment maybe a year earlier where I thought, what am I doing? And is this important? And, am I telling stories that matter? Like, is this a career that matters? Because I think you are always kind of trying to assess, like, is my life purpose filled? During the pandemic, I really realized how incredibly important people's joy is and how important it is to have those moments and those spaces where you can just disconnect a little bit from the world. And it really changed the way that I thought about being a writer and that I thought about this career, because it was the first time that I really thought joy is as important as anything else. And I think when it's sort of sucked away from you, you realize that. But until then, it seems like something on the back burner, and it's really so important.
Right. And I think that we forget about that a lot. And Also, writing and reading, they help keep your brain sharp, even when you're reading fiction, especially when you're reading fiction, because you get that creativity flowing and that imagination.
Yeah, it's been so interesting. I feel like we're studying so much more about what reading really does to the brain and what it does to our children's brains and how it is even as adults when you are transported into a different world, you're living a different life through the pages of a book. It really does change your brain chemistry, which sounds like a big thing for, a little book to do, but and I'm sure you've seen all these things about readers are more empathetic because they've lived a lot of lives. I think it's a way that we really do, especially through fiction. We walk a mile in someone else's shoes, and I think it does give us more empathy for what other people are going through because we can't really understand another person's life unless we can kind of spend those hours with them.
Something interesting that I heard not too long ago, I was hearing an educator talk, and she was talking about how in the 80s in school, you had quiet reading time. And I'm going to date myself because I was a kiddo in the 80s. And I do remember silent reading time. It was just a part of every day of your school day. You had to read a book of your choice. And then later, instruction kind of got away from that. And, it was more assessment based. And so we got away from that. And I think educators are now trying to go back to that to instill that love of reading in kids.
I love that so much. And, I do think that we're getting away from that. Kids have so many more distractions. They have so many more things pulling at their time. I mean, even just the expectations that we have on them. There's not a lot of, I just remember having a lot of free time as a kid. And
Right.
I've tried so hard to give my child free time, but the world is just different. What they want to do is different. How they experience the world is different. And so I think reading is still so important, and it's kind of that still silent reset for me, and I think it can be for so many kids too. And I was talking to a favorite bookseller of mine about this, and I said, what do we do when we have kids or we encounter kids who just don't like to read? And he says, "Oh, no, no, no. There's no one that doesn't like to read. That's a kid that hasn't found," this is my new favorite term, "their hook book." And I'm like, "Their hook?" And he was like, "Their hook book. It's the book that you read that gets you hooked on reading and makes you realize how fun it is." And I was like, "Oh," and it just changed the way that I thought about that for kids too. It's like, that's the important thing. Figure out what do they like? What are they interested in? And how can we really kind of get them hooked on reading?
Okay, that just gave me chills when you said that.
It's great, right? Well, and I think it's true for adults too. I think a
Yes.
lot of us, we're in a probably a really similar life stage where people will say to me all the time, like, "Well, why do people in that 30s to mid 40s, why aren't they the ones showing up in mass to your book events?" I'm like, because they don't have time. They're working and they're moms and it's like this just really all-consuming portion of your life where sometimes you lose that time that you used to have to just kind of lose yourself in a book, and you get more into that space of like, "Okay, I'm going on vacation, I'm gonna read a book." And I think what we like to read can change over time, and that's fine, that's great. It just meets us where we are in a different way.
And that is so true. Everything that you said, you hit the nail on the head. And that hook book for an adult, it will change over time based on the life stage that you're in
Yes.
as well. And also, anyone that's listening and you're like, I don't have time to read, let me just tell you, reading is self care, and self care is important.
It really is. And these studies are saying 6 minutes of reading reduces your stress level by something like 66%. It's faster than meditation, it's faster than exercise. It's really unbelievable. And it just makes me think, I think sometimes I think we're wired to be this kind of all or nothing lifestyle. And, it's like when people say to me, "Oh, I really want to write a book, but I don't have time." I'm like, "Well, write 250 words a day. You don't have to write 2,000 words a day to write a book. If you write 250 words a day, it eventually gets done." And I tell people all the time, if you read one chapter of a book a day, you're probably going to read 12 books a year. And that's going to make you one of the better read people in America, just one chapter a day. And think about how much enjoyment you can get out of, 12 books a year. That's huge.
It is huge. Just start one book at a time, and then it grows and grows, and you become a faster reader too, the more you read.
Yeah, you do. You definitely do it. I'm a listener now. To me, there's so many stories and I can't possibly read them all. So that's one of my favorite. And it honestly, it's kind of a good habit stack because it makes me work out too. I'll be like, okay, well, I'm gonna go walk, or I'm gonna go get on the elliptical and I'm gonna listen to my book, or during a long drive or doing dishes, or it makes kind of mundane household chores so much more fun and helps me to get to all the books that I'm just dying to read.
I like to read one book, like a physical copy of a book, and then also listen to a book. I'm doing that simultaneously.
Yes, me too, me too. And it really helps me kind of just, get more. And there's some books that there are actually some that I'll start. I don't know if this ever happens to you, but I'll be listening to it on audio and I'll think, I need to hold this in my hand. Like there's just language in this book that I just want to read with my eyes, So it depends. I also listen to a lot of nonfiction because that generally is not, nothing again. It tends to not be as lyrical, just the way that the prose are. I mean, it's just not that style of writing. So I tend to listen to a lot of nonfiction and then read my novels a little more. So,
Yes, I do the same thing. Although recently I was listening to a novel and I thought, I want to actually hear this voice. And so I
uh-huh.
downloaded the audio version so I could hear the character talk.
I
And
love
and
it.
that was
Well,
neat.
it's surprising to me. Like, I think it's kind of a new phenomenon. There are so many people that will reach out to me and they'll say, "Oh, my pre-order came today and I downloaded the audio." And I'm like, "Thanks, guys. That's really nice." But I think there are people who do want both experiences, and there are a lot of people who flip back and forth.
Mhm.
And especially I think if you're an e-reader, you can like sync them up now so you can be listening and then you can, maybe pick up your e-reader at night and it takes you to the page that you were listening to, which is genius.
Yeah, so many things. So it's okay, however you want to read, just read.
Yes. Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about your Peachtree Bluff series because that is popular as well.
Yes. So I just had a big announcement that I have a fifth book coming in that series in September. It's called Falling for Peachtree Bluff. And I have to be honest with you, the Peachtree Bluff series has been one of those things that almost feels kind of too good to be true from the beginning. I pitched this idea for a series about these three grown sisters who, all for very different reasons, come back home to live with their mother in a tiny coastal southern town. And a secret from the mother's past comes out that threatens to rip this family apart. So I pitched this idea on a phone call off on a whim in 2016 to an editor, and she loved the idea. She bought the series, and it was supposed to be 3 books. And so I got finished with the third book and I thought, I'm really not done with these women. I'm really not finished with Peachtree Bluff, but it's a 3 book series and that's fine. So during the pandemic, I was just really, really missing this holiday season that we have here in Beaufort, North Carolina, where I live, that is very much like Peachtree Bluff. And it's full of just crazy events, like just event after event after event, and parades and tree lightings and flotillas and all of these amazing things. And so I thought I'm going to write the Christmas that we're not having. And it just ended up being another Peachtree Bluff book. And that came out in 2021. And the minute I turned that book in, I was like, I know what happens next. But I thought, they're not going to let me write any more Peachtree Bluff. The series is over. So I just wrote like probably half of this book just for myself in secret. And my editor last year said, what do you think about doing another Peachtree Bluff book? People still really seem to be interested in that. And I thought, yes, like not only do I want to do it, but I know what it is. And I will tell you, I announced it last week and I was a little nervous. The night before I announced it, I thought, I haven't written one of these books in 5 years. Are people still going to be interested in this series? Are they going to want to come back to this? It was the single biggest response I have ever gotten to anything I've posted on social media ever in my life. So that was really exciting. And I was so grateful to my readers for being so excited about this and wanting to go back to visit this town again. And I love a good seasonal book. And so fall is just a season in Peachtree Bluff that I hadn't hit yet. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm so excited about this one. I really love it.
Yes, I saw that on social media. It was going crazy. People were loving it.
It was so fun. It really was. And I think being a writer, I think most of us would tell you that there's an insecurity there every time that you do it. Like there's always this feeling of like, this is going to be the time when they figure out I'm faking it. Like, I mean, I think we all sort of have this insecurity about our work in some ways. And so, I was really feeling that and just to feel that excitement from our readers, it meant everything. And so you were mentioning kind of being involved with readers and all of that. And I think we get so much from our readers to be able to have that kind of gratification of hearing from people all the time what they think or what they're excited about. It really keeps us going.
And what are you most excited about with Summer State of Mind coming out?
Oh gosh, well, I have a really great tour coming up and I love going out on tour. I love meeting readers. Tour starts May 3rd in Charleston. I'll be in Tampa, which I think that's my only Florida stop so far, but we're still adding more stops to the tour. But I love seeing the readers. I love hearing what they think. This one in particular, I love hearing, I'm excited about hearing what they think about revisiting a town and some characters that they've heard from before. And I have a real affection for this book, and between you and me, it's my favorite book cover I've ever had.
Well, it is a beautiful book cover, and you got to reveal it on national TV.
Oh my gosh, I did. That's right. Yes. On Good Morning America. That was wild. Oh wow. Yes, it was very, very exciting to get to do that. And seeing it huge was what made it even prettier.
And as far as kind of designing that cover, how much say do you have in that?
It is so from book to book that varies so much, but I will say my editor had a real vision for this cover, and she is so excellent at really being able to convey that vision. And so they actually hired an artist to do this, and I think she just nailed it. And I think it's one of those things sometimes, when someone's trying to create art for a book that's set in coastal North Carolina, it's hard because if you haven't been there, you don't know exactly what it looks like. And so sometimes it might, end up looking more like a New England coast, or it might, look a little bit different. But this it so encapsulates and captures the setting of this novel. It's on this peninsula. It's kind of in this marsh. It's this big rambling family home and filled with, secrets and stories. And it just really captures the feel. I think it's fun and it's summery, but there's also a little bit of like depth to it. And it does feel, it's a little bit more muted. It is a little somber. I think it's perfect for the book. I think it really captures the feel of it.
And I think you need to have it framed and displayed in your home.
I do too. A friend of mine recently was doing a cover reveal, and she had the cover printed. It was like sort of artwork like this, and she'd have it printed and then had a sheet on it to like do the big cover reveal. And I thought, I can't believe that, 13 books in, I have never thought of doing that. What a good idea.
Now, when you're not writing, and I know you are writing a lot, what do you like to do?
Well, I live on the coast of North Carolina, like I said, so we spend a lot of time outside. I love to be on the boat. I love to be just on the beach outside. I play tennis. I've been a tennis player my whole life. And I mean, I read a lot, which I hate to say, that. It sounds really cliche, but I love to read. It's one of my favorite things to do. But I travel a lot with my family, and it's just, I like to have a good time.
And you have a lot of friends in the literary world. And what I've noticed from doing this podcast is that this is such a supportive community.
Oh my gosh. I think you hit on what was the biggest surprise to me of being an author. It's a competitive space. I mean, as you know, you reside in a very competitive world, and you know how hard you have to work to, get where you are. And I really thought, okay, I'm going to get here, and everyone's worked so hard to be here. It's going to be very competitive here. And it's really not. It's this real camaraderie and community, because it's hard for other people to 100% understand what you do. I mean, even your best friends who are always your listening ear and always there to bounce things off of, they don't quite understand the business or, just the process of creating these stories in a way that your author friends do. And it's just incredible to have that community and that support.
And women supporting women too. I see a lot of female authors supporting other female authors, and that's so important in our space.
Oh man, absolutely. Yeah, and I do think that can be hard to find, and I'm very very fortunate that I have a web show and podcast with Mary Kay Andrews and Kristen Harmel and Patty Callahan Henry, who are three of my favorite authors that now I get to hang out with every week online. And we have had the best time kind of creating this community because it has allowed us to interview and support so many other authors. And it started out as a support system for independent bookstores during the pandemic. When we were just, we would have authors on to chat, but now we've realized like this is a great way. I mean, just like what you're doing here today to continue to support authors and readers and get the word out about books and stories. And it's really, really nice to see when people kind of come together and support each other in that way.
And Kristy, I know that you have a very busy year coming up.
Yeah, I will say that I think this one is, it kind of takes the cake, at least for releases. So I had a short story called Leave It Up to Love, released exclusively on Amazon on March 1st. And then, of course, Summer State of Mind on May 5th. And then Falling for Peachtree Bluff in September. But I also have a lot of fun film and TV projects that I'm involved in right now, which has been just incredible. My book, A Happier Life, is in development with MGM Amazon. And so we're forging ahead with that one, and it's going really well. And then The Summer of Songbirds is in development with Hulu. And I have a few others in various stages of option and development that are maybe not quite as far along, but it's something that I'm really trying to be as involved as I can in those projects, or let me say as involved as they want me to be, which they've been very generous in having me be involved in these projects. And it's so gratifying to see your work take on a different life and to watch it transform into a different medium. I mean, we were talking even just an audiobook, we were talking about that earlier. Just to hear someone else who's like such a talented actor, act out the words that you wrote on the page, even that is just a wildly different experience. So to get to see, a team of writers and how they transform your work, but like maintain the heart of it and all of that is just, it's fascinating. And I've really, really enjoyed getting to be a part of that.
And to see your books end up on the screen, I mean, is that a surreal experience?
It really, yes. And I can't believe it. Like, it's one of those things that it seems like, again, it's one of those things that you work really hard for and you hope for the best. And but it's so exciting. It's a total dream come true to get to kind of work on that. But I will say too, I mean, the novels are my heart and soul. Like, that's where most of my energy lies. That is my kind of true love. I mean, I love to write a novel almost more than anything else that I love to do. So while it is fun and exciting, my focus is always on how can I write the next best book? And, people ask me a lot, okay, now that you've had a lot of things optioned and you have a lot of things in development, do you think about that when you're writing a book? And to be honest, I really don't. Like, what I'm working on right now, it was a book that I was just so inspired to write, but I kind of know in the back of my mind it would be really, really hard to translate to film. So I think I'm still just trying to be true to who I am as a writer. And when these projects come along and they are a good fit, really embrace them. But that's not necessarily the main goal.
Well, you are delivering time and time again beautiful novels, and we appreciate that, Kristy, and we appreciate you spending some time with us today.
Oh my gosh, I appreciate you spending time with me. Thank you so much for just spreading the word and just continuing to be so supportive of writers and reading and literacy and all the amazing things that you do. We really appreciate it.
It's so important, and we encourage all of our listeners, pick up a book today.
You've been listening to Chapter Chat. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Happy reading!